again, boys and girls. Sergeant Monster here. Today we're going to talk about barrels and barrel systems, specifically the Flatline and the Apex barrel system and how they differ from more traditional paintball barrels. Now both the Flatline and the Apex impart backspin to a paintball when fired. This has an effect of basically extending the effective range of a paintball by about 50 to 100 feet. It also helps flatten the trajectory of the paintball into more of a straight line. Now, each one of these barrel systems, while they do the same trick, they do it by different methodologies. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the camera in tight, I'm going to disassemble each barrel so you can see the inner workings and how they do the trick. Alright, boys and girls, as you can see, what I have here is I have the three different barrel systems. I have pretty much a stock Tippmann barrel, I have the Flatline barrel system, and I have the Apex barrel system. Of note, this is actually an Apex tip on a Lapco Big Shot, but that's really immaterial. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take these other barrels out of the way, and I'm going to take the Flatline barrel system apart. Now, those of you who've never used a Flatline personally or don't own one, you may have only seen it in this configuration, which is with the shroud or the can on. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that off and put that off to the side here. Now this is actually the barrel, and as you can see as I rotate it, it's not actually flat. There's a nice big bend in it. I realize the irony of using a bent barrel to get a flat trajectory. Again, as an example, here is a stock Tippmann barrel, and you can see as I roll this Flatline around, it's got a bend in it. Now what this does is as the paintball leaves the marker and then travels down the barrel, there are specific areas in the inside and outside radius of this curve that are roughed up inside the barrel. It makes frictional contact with the paintball, imparting backspin to it. The last third or so of the barrel here towards the end of the aperture is actually a smooth bore, so that the ball is just picking up speed and not overspinning or possibly shredding the shell. So that's the Flatline. Now the Apex is a different system. Let's go ahead and pop that apart real quick so you can see what it does inside. This is the Apex 1. The Apex 2 is really exactly the same system with no changes. The only difference is they made the overall size of the tip a little bit lower profile, and it fits a little bit closer, so it's not quite as clunky a tip on the end of your marker. Now again, as you can see on the inside, what you basically have is you have a traditional paintball barrel. This is actually, like I said, the Lapco Big Shot barrel. It's got this normal porting in it, but it's got a special cutout on the tip that has two O-rings on it. That's just so it gets a good air seal. Now what the Apex actually does, this is actually the top portion of the barrel normally. As the ball comes down the barrel, you can raise and lower this little rubber finger here. Now what this rubber finger does is it comes out and makes contact with the paintball as it goes down the barrel. It's the whole slide mechanism. We'll go ahead and break that all apart. The differences here is that basically for most of the Apex shot, your barrel is just functioning as a traditional barrel. And then at the very end of the shot, this finger comes down. It's kind of hard to do upside down, guys, sorry. And basically gets in the way of the paintball and just boop, puts a little bit of a kick on the end of it. Whereas the Flatline, the spin is imparted over the entire travel. Now, one of the big differences that you get with the Apex tip, and one of the reasons why a lot of people seem to like it better, is that it allows you to do more trick shots. We'll talk about that in just a second. Let me go ahead and throw this back together now that you've seen what the inside kind of looks like, and we'll talk about the way the barrels and the barrel tips are used. Alright, boys and girls, well, that'll give you a little bit of an idea of how the Flatline and the Apex barrel systems do the trick that they do. Now there are ways to increase your range and accuracy with a standard style paintball barrel regardless of make or length. Most of that has to do with paint to bore match, air consistency, but you know what? We're not going to deal with that right now. What we're here to talk about today is the Flatline and the Apex and why I've chosen the Flatline over the Apex. A lot of players prefer the Apex tip, and the reason for that is because it gives you more tricks in your toolbox. Now, because it has variable levels of backspin, you can change how much backspin is placed on the ball. This has a big effect on the fact that the Apex has a big effect because the Apex tip can be rotated. At the 12 o'clock position, it operates much like a Flatline, primarily flattening out the trajectory of the paintball and extending the range. Wherever if you put it at the 3 or the 9 o'clock position, it causes the ball to hook to the left or to the right. Some say it's useful for shooting around corners and trees. Theoretically, I have no problem with that. If you put it at the 6 o'clock position, it's going to cause a breaking ball. It's going to cause the ball to go out and then rapidly sink. Useful for shooting directly over a small wall or low bunker and dropping down onto a player. That's the main reason I don't choose the Apex. Not because I feel that that is a dishonest practice, as some people have put forward. I don't choose the Apex tip because it doesn't breed consistency. The Flatline is going to behave the same way. The barrel system does not change. It's one less variable I have to overcome. If I can stabilize my air system, if I can get consistent results out of my paint, I know my barrel system is not where any of the problems may lie. Most of paintball accuracy happens in your head. You have to learn how to work with the equipment that you have, and the key to that is consistency. Every time you introduce a new variable into the system, you increase exponentially the learning curve. My belief is that if you depend upon an Apex barrel to create your backspin and round stability, you're never going to be able to develop your marksmanship skill beyond mediocre.